What's up, Recovery Warrior channel, friends, brothers, sisters out there, whoever you guys are out there, thank you for watching. My name is Jay Rizzo, and I am a real alcoholic. Welcome to my channel. Thank you guys for the support you've been showing me out there. You guys have been, a lot of new subscribers are happening, and I really appreciate it. If you guys don't know who I am Jay Rizzo. I've been in recovery for multiple years, not to brag, but you know, I am troubled every day, just like everybody else who watches this channel. We are brothers and sisters in recovery. Don't get it twisted that I am not the recovery warrior. Every brother and sister I have that come on the channel, we are warriors in recovery. You know, we fight this battle every day, hence the name Recovery Warrior. Thank you for watching, and if you guys like what you see, hit that like, and if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. I got my brother Anthony on, so I'm going to hand the camera to him. Anthony.
Hey, my name is Anthony. I'm an alcoholic. I've been sober since August 18th, 2010. One day at a time, like they say. All these cliches we hear in the rooms. Different nursery rhymes. Easy does it. One day at a time. Live and let live. All that fun stuff. I know that you know, I've gotten to know Jay here for multiple years now, and it's really nice to be able to sit down with him and really just chop it up, man. You know, like I find that recovery for me has a lot to do with perspective and how perception on how life is treating me today. You know, I can get into a state of mind of, you know, well, the world is crashing down around me, and I'm taking on more things than I can hold on to, and or I can have a mentality of you know, life gives me lemons and I make lemonade. Recovery for me has been a multitude of things. You know, building relationships, setting boundaries, just being able to be transparent with other recovery people in society in general. Getting to sit here with Jay, you know, it's a reminder, you know, like, but for the grace of God, there goes I mean, there's plenty of people out there that are struggling, that don't know how to get into the whole scheme of recovery. And for me, it was a process of trial and error, ebbing and flowing. You know, I had a sponsor that Mr. John R. He would regularly remind me, like, you know, we gotta bob and weave, we gotta duck and dive, we gotta, you know, go through life like we're fighting for something good. You know, like recovery is a good thing. And
what would you say to a newcomer out there who's on the fence, who doesn't know what to do to take that first step to get into recovery? What would you say to them?
Well, suit up and show up, man. It's a daily thing. All we have is a daily reprieve based contingent on our spiritual condition, like it says in our fine literature. You know, showing up to meetings, finding a fellowship that you crave. I think all of us really struggle with loneliness at times, where, you know, we feel like almost like we're alienated from society because of our behavior or because of the way that we react to the world. You know, I think not only do we struggle as alcoholics from the addictive part of it, but also I think a lot of us are duly diagnosed. So there's some underlying mental illness there too. So if you're struggling with you know, the whole idea of you know, mentally just unhealthy, you know, sometimes an outside help can be helpful too. You know, getting maybe some help from a psychiatrist, or you know, getting help from a doctor. And like, none of us in AA or NA or recovery in general are doctors, and we can't decide for you what's going to help you in your mental health wise. So, you know, seeking outside help can be helpful too, not just, you know, bullshit and coffee, not just going to meetings, but more than that. You know,
when did you realize you had a problem with addiction?
Honestly,
what happened? Like,
my first thought, my first coherent thought of that I was powerless over mind-altering chemicals. I was in 8th grade, and I was sitting in class, and I was sitting there high as hell, smoking up before school.
Some weed.
Yep, some weed, and I thought to myself, could I quit smoking weed if I wanted to? And the honest answer was no.
No.
I couldn't. And I've been in the room since I was 14 years old.
Now the rooms. Explain to them what is the rooms.
The rooms is AA, NA, 12-step program. I was also one of the first candidates in juvenile drug court up here in Bismarck.
Okay.
I had went through some stuff in juvenile drug court, but I did graduate from that program. Yeah.
Awesome.
14 going on 15.
Yeah.
Spent time in YCC, spent time in Heart
Now,
Blue.
if you don't mind me asking, how was your childhood? Did you have a silver spoon in your mouth? Did you grow up physically abused by stepdad, kind of like yourself?
No. I grew up in Bismarck, North Dakota, East Rosser, 16th Street Park, and I had an alcoholic father and a very caretaking mother, who I don't necessarily remember too much stability growing up.
Yeah.
I felt like kind of my neighborhood, my friends, they had parents, and our parents kind of raised us all like as a group, collectively. Like our families kind of blended really well, and we just kind of grew up together,
Okay. So you seeing your father as an alcoholic, did you like, I'm gonna be that kind of guy?
I never planned on going down that path. But I do like some people remember like certain specific things in life that were really important to them. Like I remember my first use.
Do you?
Yeah,
I
remember my first use. I think we had bought a pint from a homeless man in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
We gave him $10. He went over to Puller Package. He got us a bottle. It was half, a good 3/4 of it was still in it, but he drank.
Finder's fee.
So and we drank that pint and started driving around my friend's dad's car drunk. We ended up in Hillside, and we ended up on by Simile, and we were running around with people, and I just remember that feeling, that warm feeling, and that feeling of like everything's gonna be okay.
You're free.
Yeah.
So now we had a meeting last week, and I remember we were talking about spiritual experience, and you touched on something about a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
And that blew my mind.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh my God, that was like, it's now I look at spiritual experience and spiritual awakening as different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I went back to the big book and I was looking, and I was like, yeah, man, Anthony hit it right on the head. The nail on the head.
Those spiritual experiences. I believe my first spiritual experience is when I got drunk and high for the first time.
Because it was so
it was just like everything just like came full, like the full picture was just there.
Wow.
And that feeling of being able to finally just be. And like the thing about it is for me, alcohol did for me immediately what the 12 steps of recovery does over a period of time.
Okay.
So I can get that same feeling of ease and comfort from the 12 steps in recovery as I did from getting drunk and high.
Yeah.
But it just takes a little bit more time, a considerable amount of time where, like we talk about immediate gratification. As alcoholics and as addicts, I want it now.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to wait. I want everything right now. Whereas in recovery, like it takes a period of time and like delayed gratification. And it's so much more of a permanent feeling rather than like alcohol and drugs. Inevitably it's going to wear off.
Yeah.
It's not going to be there forever. You got to come down eventually.
Yeah, the term more will be revealed. I believe that truly, because when I first started telling my story, I thought maybe the first time I got drunk when I was 14, but that wasn't the case. As I got more clear-minded, more in recovery, I remember the first time I got drunk, I was 12. We mixed a big cocktail, and I was 12 years old, man. But I think I remember the very first time I actually wanted to get drunk, I was 14. But 12, we're just messing around. We're little shit kids getting into dad's, liquor cabinet. Yeah, because my friend, his dad had a liquor cabinet. But I was like, man, that's the very first time I got almost like what, a spiritual awakening, so to speak. And I was free. You know, I grew up with an abusive stepfather, had me in check all the time, eggshells. But as soon as I got, you know, inebriated on alcohol, you know, I felt bulletproof.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm gonna go shoot this guy with my CO2 BB gun, you know? You know? But yeah, it's just, it's crazy. But yeah, you were talking about recovery in 12 steps.
Yeah.
So like, as you went through the 12 steps, did you find, I don't know, almost like a spiritual experience with the steps? Or it was like, blah, blah, steps, I gotta do these.
Well, I spent 9 years in the rooms, in and out of the rooms. I couldn't keep consistent sobriety.
But you never relapsed.
The first 9 years, from 14 to 23,
You did.
it was nothing but relapse.
Oh, wow.
But I don't know if I can necessarily call it relapse because I wasn't working a program.
Right.
I was just showing up to meetings,
Yeah.
and I was just trying to get this thing from osmosis.
Why? Oh, okay.
Trying to get it from just hanging around sober people.
Okay.
That was going to be what was going to get me sober, but it's the exact opposite.
So what happened to make you actually like, I want this recovery lifestyle? Like,
Well,
did it just happen internally?
I know what they, you know what they say. You get to that point where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah, cliche.
Yeah, and the whole idea of like step 0 is where I had to start, which was this shit's got to stop.
Yeah,
Like not necessarily stopping anything, but knowing like I got to stop.
yeah.
And I was 23, just got kicked out of my apartment, moved into my parents' basement, and I was a basement warrior, and that's how I sobered up. And
Yeah.
What ended up happening is, you know, I'd regularly get up in the morning, and my dad would be like cracking open a beer, right? And I'd be like, Dad, what's going on today? You know, the recovery thing is what I'm into right now. He's like,
Yeah.
you know what, son, you need to get out of my house. You need to get a JOB,
Yeah.
and you need to go do something until 5 o'clock in the afternoon when your mom gets home.
Wow.
And so I'd wander, and I'd go to friends' house around 8 and you know, I'd go down the street, and my friend Ron and Garth would be down there, and I'd sit with them, and we'd drink 3-day-old coffee, and we'd be watching TV, and then, you know, I'd make my way to my noon meeting,
Wow.
and then I'd you know, regularly spend time with people in the rooms as much as I could, anybody who was willing to hang out with me at the time.
Yeah.
And I really had nowhere else to go, man. Like nobody else would have me.
That's
man.
cool. It's kind of the other side of
Yeah.
walking around with the trap pack on and
Yeah.
all your cigarettes.
Well, I do remember I was in this sobriety. It was 2 weeks sober, and a gal that worked at the mini mart walked up to me and asked me if I could find her a bag of weed.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know, I don't smoke weed anymore. I quit. And she's like, oh, how long has it been? I said 2 weeks, and she just busted out laughing.
But you were determined.
Yeah, I was determined, and it was the people that doubted me
Yeah.
that really pushed me forward. Do you know who doubted me the most? It was me.
Yeah,
I
yourself.
doubted myself constantly. I constantly would have that mentality that no, you can't do it. You're not worth it. You're not gonna. You're not one of
Yeah.
those people that'll succeed in recovery. But I stuck it out, and you know, I was 3 months sober. I just got my 3-month medallion, and I was in my parents' basement getting ready for bed. My brother was down there with his bottle of Patron or whatever, 1800.
Yeah.
And a little like shot
Cork?
glass on the top.
Oh, okay.
So he's like, "Hey, brother, have a shot with me." I'm like, "No, Lucas, I just got sober. I got 3 months sober." He's like, "Well, shit, you ain't gonna stay sober anyways. You might as well have a drink
You
with
loser.
me."
No.
And you know, I met a man in the rooms that took me through the first 5 steps, and you know, I'd sit with him weekly, and I'd write down some of the stuff from on my 4th step. And when I'd show up there, he'd always have like these candles, like Jesus and Mary candles, and I'm like, let's light those candles. And then so we'd light the candles. He'd turn the lights down dim, and then he'd make me a cup of coffee, and he'd make me a piece of bread with toast with peanut butter and honey.
Yeah.
And that was my thing. Every week I'd show up for my peanut butter and honey toast and my coffee and my candles, and I'd sit there and I'd pray first, of course. I'd involve the Creator in it and start writing down this 4-step. And I didn't know how freeing that was going to be.
Yeah.
But it took me 9 months to do my 4-step.
Yeah.
And there was people in the rooms that were like, hey, like, you need to get this fifth step out of the way.
Yeah.
If you get through your fifth step, I'll take you out to eat. I'll get you a steak dinner, right?
Yeah.
Another guy said, you get that through that fifth step, I'll give you a whole steak. I got it right here in my refrigerator.
What did you do?
I got it done at 9 months. I got my fifth step. You know what I did after that?
What?
Waited another 18 months to get through my 6 and 7.
Oh, wow.
And I sat on 6 and 7. And I really thought about those character defects and the stuff that was holding me back from being the person I wanted to be, not who I allowed myself to become.
Mm-hmm.
And I met another man. Well, first we went down to South Dakota, me and my first sponsor, and we went to a Native American forum, how to reach the Native American in recovery, to help them get sober. And I sat in this forum down in Rapid City, and I'd listen, and there was some heated discussions at times. Like there was some real discussions in front of the speaker and everything.
Yeah.
And like I sat there and I went to a workshop that day.
Yeah.
And there was an elder from South Dakota, and he shared his experience on his road in recovery. And he had shared that he went overseas to war, and he came back, and the spirit had followed him back home.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't leave him alone. He's just getting haunted by the spirit, right?
Yeah.
And it was from overseas, from war, and he had shared that it wasn't until he accepted that spirit as a relative that it wouldn't
Really?
leave him alone. It finally left him alone at that time after he accepted that spirit as a relative. And after he was done with his workshop, I walked up to him. I'm like, hey, I'm really interested in starting to go to Sweat. I want to go to ceremony. He's like, well, come on down. I'll get you in, man. And like that kind of set the ball rolling, I think.
Yeah.
Because I had gone back home to Bismarck, and I was going to a meeting, and I met that John R. And John R. was talking about picking up his chanupa. And
What is that?
A prayer pipe.
Okay.
And he picked up his pipe for the first time, and he decided he was going to commit to that.
Mm.
And I asked him after that meeting, it was 11/1/11. This is kind of odd that it would be that, but that's when I went to my first Sweat Lodge. And I remember showing up, and I just felt like this overwhelming feeling of like welcoming, like I'm finally where I need to be. And I had gone into that Sweat Lodge, and I remember sitting in the south. And I remember all the rocks coming in, all the grandpas coming in, in the center, and they were just glowing red. And I was just sitting there like, oh. And they shut the door, and then I heard that sound of that drum, and then the singing, and I just bawled. I just cried through that first full door, and it was cold, 11/1/11. It's November, and, and I regularly, and I sat there and I cried.
Yep.
And that night I went back to the casino at Prairie Nights, and I slept that night. And I was told not to take a shower, keep that on me,
Yep.
keep your spirits around me, and be connected to it. There was some healing that night.
Awesome.
And I believe because of that, I felt drawn to continue to go to ceremony, and to continue to go to AA. And I was a year sober at that time when I went to my first Sweat Lodge, and I remember going to meetings, and I'd go to Sweat, and I'd go to Sundance, and I'd show up to these different retreats like the Sioux Spiritual Center, or we'd go down to Albuquerque for Red Road Convention, or we'd go to the Wild Rice Roundup.
Wow.
And like AA and Red Road are parallel from what I've been taught.
Okay.
Is like they go together. They're going the same path. And for me, like I would have never found these ceremonial ways and the connection to these ceremonials without AA first. I always fall back on AA. I always fall back on my 12 steps and working in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And then it's brought so much more into my life since then.
Wow.
And that spiritual growth and being able to be the man that I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, what really blew my mind was I got sober through the AA program, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved here to the reservation, and I'm meeting people who go traditional way.
Mm-hmm.
So it opened up my eyes to a whole new perspective of recovery. Like, wow. Because I came from sober living, and the AA program, that recovery program is just bestowed into the sober living I went to. You know, that's the only reason why I got sober is because I started doing the steps with the sponsor. But now that I moved out of sober living and I'm meeting, you know, natives in recovery, and it's like, boom, it's like a whole new ball game,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
And
that's
just
cool.
like you said, more too shall be revealed.
Yeah, and that's
because
cool.
we may think that, but this is it.
Yeah.
There's so much more.
No.
It's an unending amount of resources out there,
Yeah.
and people that we're gonna come across. Like they say, like we're not strangers in AA. We're friends that haven't met yet,
Exactly.
and we're constantly gaining relatives. And I think that's part of life in general.
Yeah.
We're just trying to build relationships, trying to build relatives, gain family.
What's crazy too is that, like, I call everybody in recovery my brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, family. And because they are, you know, whether you have 1 day, 1 hour of recovery, you know, you are my brother, you're my sister. And I try my best to help people. You know, I don't sit there and gloat, yeah, I'm sober, I'm in recovery, listen to me. You know, I don't. I just stay humble about it. Like, you can do it too, you know, if you're hurting out there, you know.
So a little bit of my story, in my earlier years trying to get sober, so there'd be people in the rooms, and they called old timers, people with times that have been sober for multiple years, and I'd be 24 hours sober multiple times, and people from the rooms would be like, "Hey, we're going out to Prairie Learning Center." It was just a youth style at that time, and we need you to come share. I'm like, I got 24 hours sober. They're like, "You're coming. You're gonna come tell your story." And I remember I had nothing going on, and there was a man named Gordy. He would regularly hit me up and try to drag me along to different places to speak. But one day, his speakers fell through. He didn't have a speaker for a group he was going to. He was going to Dickinson psych ward, like treatment psych ward style in Dickinson. He brought me out there. And 24 hours sober, and I shared my story in front of the whole treatment class.
Wow.
And they couldn't believe that I had only been sober for 24 hours. But like I was willing to get out of my comfort zone, even at 24 hours sober, and go share my experience, strength, and hope. So like no matter how amount of time that someone has, they have just as much to offer.
Yeah.
Actually, the newer you are in the rooms, the closer you are to your last drink, the more the newcomer can relate to that person.
Exactly.
Much more than someone who's got, like myself, 14 years.
Yeah.
Someone new, they don't want to hear necessarily what I have to say. They want to know what somebody's going through at 30 days.
That's true. I hear that too all the time. Like I tell that in my stories too. Like if you're looking over that edge, I don't know if they know what I'm talking about out there, but some of us are against that next drink. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you were saying, like there's a shot just shoved into your face, you know, like, damn, I don't know. Maybe.
Well, like that's a good topic because there's going to come a time where your jug of choice is going to be sitting in front of you.
Yeah.
Your sponsor's not going to pick up the phone. There's not going to be any access to getting help from human source, from people, and you're going to have to depend on how close of a relationship you have with your higher power at that time. There's going to come a time where where that relationship with your higher power is going to be between you and your next drink. And I honestly have no defense against the first drink. I'm not it's not gonna be the 100th drink that's gonna get me into trouble. It's that very first one, that very first substance that I put into my body, because I can't get drunk if I don't drink the first one. It's absolutely impossible to get high or drunk if I don't take that first use. That's why they say one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. And I really had to dumb it down for me. Like, especially, like, I realized, like, you could be too smart to get sober.
Yeah.
You could become too smart, but you can never be too dumb.
So did you ever hear, shout out to Big Man, he always said, what's the answer to step one? Did you ever hear him say that?
Tell me.
Step two.
Step two answer is step one is step two.
Yeah, you're gonna drink again, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he explains it in a little more detail.
The insanity.
Yeah, but he just blows my mind when he talks about it. Because, like, when we were sitting in our house manager meetings in the morning, you know, he would talk. And they would put us on the spot, you know, as new house managers, like, how do you stay sober? Or they would ask us, like, just off the wall, shoot us questions. And be like, I don't know. you know.
Mhm.
But after a while, it just became like, shit, I'm an alcoholic, man. You know, I'm gonna drink again,
Yeah.
and that messed me up. It's like, I'm not gonna drink again. I want to drink again. But as I got more and more into the rooms, I got more and more time under my belt. It's like, yeah, man, I'm an alcoholic. I will drink again.
You know what's funny though? You never hear about people going back out and relapsing and saying that, oh yeah, I woke up in the morning and I prayed and I got into the book right away and I went to a meeting and I read my meditations and I called my sponsor. No, you don't hear that. You don't hear
No.
anybody that says that they relapsed, that they did those things
Mhm.
prior to their first drink.
That's true.
That's why they say that spiritual condition.
Yeah,
Where am I at today?
yeah, exactly.
This 24.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of like how I answered it too. It's like, you know, I just got to worry about that 24 hours. It's like, yeah, I'm going to drink again. I'm a boozer, you know. I'll drink Lysol or mouthwash to get drunk, you know. But it's just that 24 hours at a time. I choose not to drink.
Mm-hmm.
Then I reset the next day and
I
do
can
it
always,
again.
I can get drunk tomorrow.
Us shit, me too. You know, who knows what tomorrow's going to bring.
Yeah,
But
tomorrow never comes.
right, just worry about today, man. And I remember your sponsor, John R. He said one thing in a meeting. He's like, "Tomorrow comes with today again."
Yeah.
I heard him say that, and I put it in my phone. I'm like, "What the hell does that mean?" So I put it in my notes. Tomorrow comes with today again, and I was like, it took me 3 or 4 or 5 days to finally figure it out. Like, hell yeah, it does.
Yeah.
You know, you're messed up. You know, you're effed. You know.
You know what? You know what's even wilder about sponsorship is that, you know, like we go, that first sponsor I had that took me through the steps, the first 5 steps. I stepped over and started working with John.
Mm-hmm.
John had brought me all the way up until the 9th step, and then it's almost like people are in your life for a period of time.
Yeah.
Either for a reason, a season, or a lesson. And then, you know, it's almost like we kind of just learn from one another, and then we kind of move on.
Yeah.
And we graduate, because I've had sponsors since John.
Yeah.
I've had other sponsors, and I've worked with other new guys.
Yep.
And, you know, like a lot of times for me, it's not so much trying to necessarily help or save the
Right.
alcoholic. It's just being present.
Exactly.
And being present in another man's life,
Yeah.
and being able to be open, honest, and transparent,
Oh,
and being able to communicate like we're doing right now.
Mhm. Yeah, I had that too, like that notion of like my sponsor is gonna get me sober. No, he ain't. Like I got that thrown back in my face. No, he's just there to help you through the steps.
Yeah.
He's there to help you find a higher power. You know, it's gonna be between you and your power of your understanding that's gonna get you in the right path. You know, and that just blew my mind.
Well, just like any relationship, our relationship with our higher power has to be loving, caring, kind.
Yeah.
Also, like, it's a relationship, so it takes
yeah.
time, it takes effort. It's not just, you know, like every time you need help, you reach out. It's like every single day, that personal relationship. And it's almost like if God, my relationship with my higher power is always changing.
Oh yeah.
It never stays the same.
Yep.
It's
It can't.
always changing. It can't.
It can't.
And if I knew everything I needed to know about Creator, he wouldn't be much of a creator.
Right.
Now, I don't understand him. He's nuts, man. That's one wild guy.
Yeah. That's why I was like, at the end of the day, I was like, thank you for putting those challenges before me. You know, at the time, I felt messed up, like you were out to get me, but you weren't. You taught me a lesson.
Before I knew how to pray, I did really simple prayers. Like in the morning, I'd say, please. And then at night before I went to bed, I'd say, thank you.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty powerful prayer right there, if you ask me.
Yeah. That's what I tell my daughters too. I was like, don't ask for anything when you pray, because I'm teaching them how to pray more now because I'm more in tune. Don't ask for anything, because when it doesn't happen, you're gonna get discouraged. Don't sit there and ask to hit the lottery. You ain't gonna hit the lottery. Pray for good things. Stay positive. I just plant these little seeds of hopes in their heads, because I have 2 adult daughters and they have kids, and they struggle like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Just leading by example, and it's just like being a sponsor. You can't sit there and drag response and listen, but you can't do that. Kick him in the back of the pants once in a while. Like for me, I have lifelines. I don't just use my sponsor because sometimes he's not available. So I have other resources. Other brothers out there probably watching this. my lifelines. What do I do? So you just tell me to fuck, straighten up.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said earlier, something about the most dangerous part. What did you say? The dangerous part of being an alcoholic is being in a room by yourself.
Oh yeah. You get an alcoholic gets locked in their house by themselves. They're in the most dangerous, or with the most dangerous.
I believe that truly.
Person that you could be with, or you're with a dangerous individual.
Yeah, that's true. If you guys don't understand that, go read the big book or something. Yeah. But yeah, what do you think about the? You were talking about spirits and stuff like that. Do you believe in spirits fully? Have you ever seen one?
So there was a period of time where I had thought running, exercise was going to do it for me, and I wasn't going to meetings, and I started walking. I'd regularly walk.
Would you put earbuds in and just take off and like, this is going to keep me sober?
Like I literally had a hard time even going to school because I felt like I had so much pressure on me, just so much like coming down on me. I just needed to run. So I started running like every day. I was 17, 18 years old, and I just started running every single day. And it was almost like I didn't know whether or not I was running from something or if I was running to something. But I remember, some of those nights, like I would run. And one night specifically, I was running up 26th Street there, and it was nighttime, and there was an SUV coming up this way. And I looked over at that SUV, and I seen like a blue dart fly out and land in the grass next to me.
What?
It was like literally like
seen it?
Yeah, just seen it. This blue light just come down and look at that, and I didn't stop to go look at it. I just knew that something was there.
Yeah.
Something was with me because I was pushing my body. I was pushing the limits, man. It was like every day I was running, and I had my red jumpsuit on, and a shaved head, and just wild looking. I'm sure I scared the crap out of people. But and then one day I remember running from my parents' house up there all the way down to Expressway, all the way over to Arbor Avenue, up River Road, and I went up that village site right over there at the end of River Road there, and I ran up that building. It was dark outside. Ran up that hill. It was really dark outside, and I remember walking through, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, what if there was wild animals up here? The first word that came to my head, I was like, Tatanka, and then I heard pounding on the ground around me, and like obviously whatever I called on at that moment, I was like embraced by.
No way.
Yeah, it felt so wonderful at that time, and I feel like almost like at that time when I wasn't in the rooms and I was doing that, it was a period of time where I needed to find myself.
Oh yeah.
I needed to find a connection to my spirit because I'd been so disconnected from my spirit for so many years of drinking and using, and I needed that time for myself. And I believe everything that I've gone through or went through in this life has brought me to where I'm at. I don't regret anything. There's not one thing I regret. Yeah. And that's one thing that they teach us is we don't regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it.
Right.
Like our worst memories, our worst actions can be helpful to somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
Now that we're living a good life.
Yeah.
You can use that past.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff we don't want to talk about, some of that stuff on our 4th step that we didn't want to share, that stuff will be useful to the next still suffering alcoholic that comes along.
That's cool, huh?
Yeah, it is.
It's awesome, man. I love it. Yeah, it's just the term we do not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it.
It's one of the promises.
Yeah, I heard that. I think we're going over step 4 or step 9 being amends. And okay, my last relationship, she was pregnant, 6 months old. I left her high and dry. I went on a wicked drunk in my last go around. And we got out of that big book study on step 9, and I wanted to go apologize to this woman who was carrying my child. And I wanted to call her right then and there now, Sorry, babe, man. But she wasn't my babe, But basically, I'm sorry I left you high and dry. Never talked to her that day. She was 6 months pregnant, and it just messed me up. Like, then talked to Big Man, you know, because I worked with the guy in the office, and he's like, that's what he said to me. We do not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. Your time will come, you know. Your time will come. Are you gonna do more damage than good if you actually call her right now?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you're right, man. So I just put that thought to the side. I guess that time will come.
Yep.
And this was like a year ago, 2 years ago. Time still hasn't come, but I'm fine with that. You know, that little guy's 3 years old now. I've never met that child. You know, it still hurts in here. But that amends will come. You know, I can't carry it. I ain't gonna drink over it, use over it, you know, but it's always there. And that's just the way we heal as alcoholics, I believe. You know, we eventually have to say our amends, but it's just not the time to do it. You know, I pray about it,
when time comes.
burn smudge and give it to God and let Him take care of it. That seems to be how I get by now, you know.
Give it to God and trust that when the time is right, it'll be there. It'll just present itself.
Exactly.
I believe that. Anytime we talk about amends, I believe like you'll be given the exact time and place to be when that time is ready. It's just taking the next willingness and honesty and open-mindedness to just keep
trudging.
Well, that idea of like just being present in life, and when the opportunity arises, not being fearful, and taking that opportunity when it comes.
Yeah. Because we as alcoholics live a fear-based life. I believe. You know, we tuck tail and run, or we're gonna sit there and fight and get our teeth knocked out. But who cares? We're still here. We don't have to drink over it, I believe. Because I lived a fear-based life. My dad was horrible. Had me in check all the time. Like, I couldn't even look at the guy, you know. But to this day, I love him. Tell him I love him. My stepdad raised me. I got nothing against him, because I just realized maybe he grew up that way.
Well, also I think when we think of our role models and our guardians, we think of, you know, how they could have done better or how they could have done something different. But they did exactly what they could with what they had. They did the best they could with what they were able to give at that time. And being able to love them where they're at today.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like, especially like when I thought about my stepdad, I thought he was an old ass dude, but here I am, 46 years old. So when I lived with him, he was younger than me than I am now. And I looked at him as an old man. I'm like, shit, I'm older than him now. Does that make me an old man? You know?
We've lived, man.
One more day around the sun.
We're blessed to be here.
Oh yeah. But thanks for being on, Anthony. If you guys have been watching it this long, I am Jay Rizzo and I'm an alcoholic. Do you have any closing remarks for our struggling and addict alcoholic out there?
Well, honestly, trusting the process. When you're given the opportunity, you'll know when the right time is the right time. Only we know when we're ready.
All right. This is the Recovery Warrior channel. If you've been watching it this long, you want to see more, you know, hit that like button down below. Hit that subscribe button. I'll have more shows lined up. And just thank you guys for watching, man. We are blessed with another day in recovery, man. With that, we will pass. I love you. But